Gentlemen and female gentlemen, we're here for ANGRON Valkyr lore from Warhammer D&D. I just made that up. From Warhammer 40k. ANGRON is apparently a very cool Primarch, and he got absolutely obliterated by the gamers. The gamers in the universe, and it's absolutely diabolical. Now, important to note, someone in my chat told me to recognize that ANGRON was supposed to be the virtue of the Emperor, but he got corrupted, which makes his story even sadder. So that's what my chat said. So now let's see if they're correct.
You kept that mule, Confrontation. Russ kept his kin friends. The lion kept Lufa.
Alright.
Humans, brothers, and foster fathers, saved and raised into legion ranks. But not me. Not ANGRON, no. Did the Emperor teleport his gold-wrapped custodians down to help me and my army? No.
Bro,
did he free the Warhammer?
This dude is just so angry.
And ordered them to battle, fight alongside me? No. Did he save my brothers and sisters the way he spared and honored the lion's closest kin?
No.
The way he honored Confrontation? No, no, and no. No mercy for ANGRON. ANGRON the Oathbreaker. ANGRON the Betrayer.
Oh, damn. Alright, so this dude's angry, it
The
seems.
Primarchs of his Imperium would shoulder many burdens with their service. Created to lead humanity's greatest armies, to
Right.
purge the galaxy of heresy and malevolent influence, each Primarch would wrestle control of their inner nature to best lead their legions as exemplars of the Emperor's vision. Yet many of the sons of the Master of Mankind would be afflicted with inner turmoil and proved to be unsalvageable.
We know.
For today, we shall elucidate one such Primarch whose homeworld influence would forever damn him to a life of pain, fury, and bloodlust.
Dude, these visuals
The
are so
Lord
cool.
of the Red Sands, ANGRON.
Alright, baby. ANGRON. Everyone told me I had to see this one.
With the scattering of the Primarchs across the stars, the Primarch of the 12th Legion would land upon the world of Nuceria within close proximity to the Ultima Segmentum. A civilized world ruled by aristocratic tyrants, the technologically advanced civilization would, though self-sufficient, bear a deeply troubling fascination with violence.
Alright.
The impoverished civilians under the ruling elite of the planet hungered to vent their frustrations by observing the misery and suffering of others. Organizing gladiatorial spectacles to distract the populace, the oligarchic nobles would cybernetically enhance their chosen pawns to enact brutal rampages within the gladiator pits. The young Primarch would be discovered by a slaver of the pits, finding the injured boy surrounded by Xenos corpses high in the Deshelika Mountains.
No, don't torture him.
Scholars would theorize the assailants to be the Eldari, armed with the forewarning of the scourge that the young boy would bring to the galaxy.
Oh, damn. I didn't know that. That's actually really cool. That's actually really cool. Oh, my lord. So it was the Eldari that found him.
Their assassination failed. The corpses of the Xenos would aid in encouraging the slaver to sell his foundling for a high price to the rulers of Nuceria. Brought to the palace of Praxica, within the city of Deshea,
That's a nice
the slaver
palace.
would sell the young warrior to the house of Valkyr.
Bro, they literally found this child, this baby, before he can even think. This baby. They took him, and they enslaved him, and now they're going to use him as a gladiator, if I remember correctly. Oh my god. Everyone else landed and, you know, figured shit out, developed an army, fought back against some oppressive government. Then ANGRON, bro, gets obliterated out of the uterus.
Thrust into battle, barely of the age of a toddler, the child Primarch would, alongside 100 slaves, battle an acid-spewing creature
Oh my
upon the
God.
gladiator pit Ziggurat. As acid filled the arena, the Primarch would by necessity kill any who took up space on the ever-dwindling platform. Surviving his first battle,
Dude was a monster. He was a toddler, all right? And as the place filled with acid, he would murder his fellow gladiators to give himself space.
within the pit, the child would shed a tear for those he had slain to endure his barbaric trial. His promise as a gladiator would see the child ascend to fight within the largest arena of the land and be given the name Angronius Valkyr, Child of the Mountain.
Damn.
Recovering from his wounds, ANGRON would rapidly grow in size due to his enhanced genetics, and within months become the foremost acclaimed gladiator of Nuceria.
This is so sad. He literally killed the people around him in order to survive on this shrinking platform, and he cried tears as he was forced to kill them. He hated doing it, but he had to do it in order to live. Oh my god, this is the most tragic character in Warhammer.
The populace of Nuceria would come to cherish the champion of the arena. Dubbing the Primarch as the Lord of the Red Sands, after his deeds on the blood-soaked earth of gladiator pits, ANGRON, whilst physically strong, would also display a profound sense of honor and mercy. Sparing the lives of gladiators whom had proven their merit in battle, ANGRON would slay hundreds of warriors, yet never succumb to his baser instincts.
Damn.
The unbeaten gladiator of Deshea would, despite his circumstance, enjoy the thrill of battle and adulation of his people.
Alright.
Yet in secret, ANGRON would plot to escape his bonds of slavery, and on many occasions attempt, and fail, to escape his captors.
Poor guy.
Mentored by the veteran gladiator of the pits, Oenimus, the old warrior would act as a foster father to the young and impressionable Primarch. Side by side, ANGRON and Oenimus would slay scores of opponents within the pit. An especially acclaimed victory against a pair of Ogren berserkers implanted with the deadly contraption known as the Butcher's Nails. Their ample strength further amplified by the cortical implants, the opponents of the Lord of Red Sands would bound into the fray with feral rage and fury. Yet such a victory would sour the efforts of the so-called High Riders of the aristocrats of Nuceria,
So sad.
and soon after, ANGRON would be pitted against his mentor in combat.
No! Bro, that's horrible. All this time bonding with some dude in the gladiator rings. Then this poor bastard needs to go fight against him. The Butcher's Nails are a lobotomy. Wait, the Butcher's Nails were inserted into his head to actually lobotomize him and force him to endless conflict? Bro, this poor guy.
Facing one another in a duel to the death, ANGRON would refuse to fight his father figure. The Primarch's insolence would see him restrained by the guards of the arena, and as punishment, the High Riders would implant the Butcher's Nails within
That's the Butcher's Nails.
ANGRON's skull. A relic from the dark age of
Oh my god. I actually feel bad for this guy. This might be the most tragic character in Warhammer. This is the most tragic character in fiction. He's up there.
technology. Historical records are unclear as to how the Nucerians came to own such dangerous implants, but what can be gleaned is that their actions would damn countless billions to death across the millennia. Imbued with increased adrenal function, strength, aggression, and overwhelming bloodlust, ANGRON's path to damnation would begin.
Oh my god. Someone in my chat just told me, the Butcher's Nails make you feel intense pain whenever you're not feeling rage. That might be the saddest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Blinding all sense of reason or morality within the Primarch's mind.
Oh my,
The
an
nail-
actual lobotomy. And then they force him to fight against his own father figure. Oh my god, what a nightmare.
Nails would dig deep until all that would end their inflicted suffering would be the release of blood and viscera. Rewarding violence with spasms of
It
pleasure.
ends the suffering when you're enraged and murderous. Oh my god, dude, this is a nightmare.
ANGRON would become a living embodiment of rage. The High Riders would test their new feral beast's abilities by releasing Oenimus to face him in combat. Tearing him limb from limb, ANGRON's hunger for violence would not be sated in his frenzied, berserk state. Regaining clarity after the maiming
And he murdered his own father figure. He tore him to shreds.
of his foster father, ANGRON would quickly wallow in despair at his actions. Howling, alike to a feral beast, ANGRON's wails of sorrow would not end for several days. ANGRON would swear that one day he shall escape the shackles of the High Riders
This dude's a
and achieve
nightmare.
vengeance for his manipulation and his father's death.
But this is like Hassan Piker's dog and its shock collar, except even sadder.
For several years, ANGRON would train and organize the gladiators of the arena into a brotherhood of warriors. Dominating any challengers chosen to face them, the Dashaean gladiators would respect their leader with utter devotion and aid in his plot to escape the arena.
They all knew he'd kill them. He wanted to escape, and all the other gladiators were like, yes, sir, because this dude was literally going to rip them to shreds.
Upon the grandest spectacle of the Death Games, the gladiators would make their escape. Assembling the entirety of his men, ANGRON and his gladiators would enter the arena en masse to rapturous applause. Turning on the arena guards, the gladiators would butcher their wardens and escape the arena among the panicked stampede of the civilian onlookers. Armed with firearms, the remaining arena guards would put down a swathe of the gladiators, armed with swords and scant armor. Yet despite the resistance, 2,000 Dashaean gladiators would escape to the mountains of ANGRON's origins. For years, the rulers would hunt down the gladiators and slowly erode their numbers. Naming themselves the Eaters of Cities, the Dashaean gladiators under ANGRON's command would hold any incursion to capture or slay their band of warriors.
Honestly, that's kind of based. It's kind of based. He starts this entire band of gladiators that rebelled against their captors. And now he's probably going to conquer the planet.
However, attrition would slowly see to the dwindling of the Eaters of Cities until their numbers declined to 1,000 men and women. Upon the mountain of Fed Moor, ANGRON's band of gladiators would make their final stand. At the Jest Elica Ridge, the Eaters of Cities would be surrounded by 7 armies of Nuceria.
7 armies?
ANGRON and his warriors would be doomed to die in combat, for even a Primarch would be unable to best such an overwhelming force. Yet ANGRON would not die this day, and with the intervention of the Emperor of Mankind, the Primarch of the 12th Legion would be saved. Observing the Primarch's struggles in secret,
Alright, why couldn't the Emperor do something about this? You couldn't undo the Butcher's Nails?
the Master of Mankind would watch his son's rebellion from afar. Descending to the battle with a cadre of his custodians, the Emperor would offer his aid in the battle should his son...
They thought they were going up against a bunch of gladiators with pitchforks, and then they ended up going against the most powerful military in the Imperium.
...and assume the mantle of leadership of the 12th Legion, the Warhounds. Refusing the Emperor's offer, ANGRON would demand that he remain on Nuceria with his gladiator kin and not withdraw from the planet until his enslavers had been brought to justice.
Wow.
Reluctantly,
Normally they all accept the Emperor immediately.
the Emperor would teleport ANGRON to his flagship, shocked at the sheer refusal of his son to adopt the responsibility ordained by his word. Finding his son wanting in strategical acumen, the Master of Mankind would not let his irreplaceable son die
If
to
you remove the butcher's nails, you die. Oh.
the rabble of a backwater planet. The Eaters of Cities would be massacred without the leadership of ANGRON, to which the Lord of Red Sands would watch their annihilation helplessly from orbit.
Oh my god, dude,
Lashing
that's
out
horrible!
at the Custodian Guard, ANGRON would slay one of the Emperor's guardians until the Master of Mankind would use his psychic might to subdue the Primarch. Hoping in time that ANGRON would understand the realities of why the Emperor had abandoned his band of warriors, the Master of Mankind would seek to salvage the potential of his much...
Salvage the potential, bro. You kidnapped your son and you forced him to watch all of his people die as he's being tortured by these butcher's nails. Oh my god.
beleaguered and scarred son. ANGRON was a ghost of the Emperor's former plans, yet a Primarch he would remain. For every Primarch would serve the Imperium in the campaigns of the Great Crusade. Embittered to his father's dismissal of his plight, ANGRON would come to resent the Emperor for his disregard for his honor to die with his men.
That's crazy. That's the only, I think this is the only Primarch that hated the Emperor. All the other ones liked him. I mean, they eventually rebelled. Some of them eventually rebelled, but at some point they all liked him.
Nurturing the deep wound in his psyche, the Lord of Red Sands would regardless assume command of his legion, the Warhounds, in an attempt to sate the ever-worsening cravings of the Butcher's Nails. Murdering the captains of his legion and the 12th Legion Master, Ibram Grier, in a fit of rage, ANGRON's hatred for his stranger sons would be calmed with the intervention of the Legion's 8th captain, Khan. Volunteering to soothe his Primarch's torment, Khan would be beaten to near death by his gene father.
Oh my god.
Yet Khan's resolve to never accept defeat would resonate with his Primarch, and for his efforts, a bond between Khan and ANGRON would form. Convincing his Primarch that the Legion was worthy to honor the legacy of the gladiators of Deshea, Captain Drieger would offer a change in the 12th's title. No longer would they be the Emperor's Warhounds. From then on, they would become the Eaters of Worlds for the Lord of Red Sands. Now known throughout the Imperium as the World Eaters.
There it is, boys, the World Eaters. That's how they got their name. Interesting.
ANGRON would lead his men to bring many worlds into compliance, into the fold of the Imperium. Incorporating the Nucerian gladiator cultural trappings into their legion, the World Eaters would become synonymous for their efficient, yet bloody deeds. Experts in neurological surgery and cortical implant technologies would study the Primarch's affliction of the Butcher's Nails. Realizing that the implants, combined with the Primarch's enhanced biological functions, had integrated beyond all hope of removal, ANGRON's brain had been remapped to incorporate the nail's influence above all other stimuli of his body.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
Reducing his serotonin neurotransmitters and deadening all emotions beside aggression, ANGRON's capabilities of reason would be continually lost as the influence of the nails progressed. Removal of the Butcher's Nails would definitely kill the Primarch, yet their continual presence would regardless slowly kill him. The 12th Legion's burden
This is the most tragic backstory I've ever heard.
would be many, as not only was their Primarch slowly dying from his affliction, his reputation as the only Primarch to fail in conquering his homeworld would worsen the World Eater's already infamous reputation.
Yeah, I know, man, I know. I literally called that. Every other Primarch, they get, jettisoned across the galaxy. They end up born on different worlds. Every single one of them conquers their home world. All of them. They unite them under their rule. And then they end up making their people that they've personally conquered as the major people in their army. They made them the major constituency of their platoons. Were people from the home world. But not ANGRON. He failed. He's the only Primarch that failed and had all of his homies on his homeworld brutally murdered.
Morale was low within the 12th Legion.
That's the point of the quote at the beginning.
Purpose as the serrated edge of the Great Crusade would at least give them purpose. Conflict was the only measure of the worth of the World Eaters, for they would earn no glory or plaudits, only satisfaction in battle as warriors. Seeking to emulate their Primarch and become closer to his solitary struggle, the legionaries of the World Eaters would volunteer themselves to undergo the procedure to be implanted with Butcher's Nails of their own devising. Ordering his apothecaries to construct the nails and begin implanting them within his legion,
No way.
ANGRON would seek to transform the 12 into warriors befitting the heritage of Nuceria's gladiators.
Oh my god. And he made all of his generals and fighters also insert a version of the butcher's nails into their own heads. Dude, this guy's crazy! He's a psycho! Oh my god.
Initially yielding a 100% failure rate, the nails would cause any implanted to die a painful death.
Oh my god.
Yet ANGRON would not relent in his demand.
Bro, this is like, why would you force this on them, man? Oh my god. They wanted to do it. They wanted to do it for their Primarch. Oh my god.
For the nails to be refined and trialed. Abandoning his legion for their weakness to follow in the steps of the gladiators of Terra, it would take 2 years for his equerry, Khan, to reunite the Lord of Red Sands with his legion. Shedding their weakness, Khan would be the first to survive the Butcher's Nail surgery, and by his example, the legion would completely integrate the nails into their bodies, or die in the attempt.
Oh my god.
Observing the rapid devolution of the World Eater's discipline
World Eaters be like, if we do this, maybe Dad will love us.
in favor of frenzied rage, detractors of the 12th Legion would let their criticisms be known.
Yeah, no shit.
Rabute Gilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines Legion, would be disgusted during his joint campaign alongside ANGRON during the cleansing of Arigata.
I mean, do we blame him? Like, do we blame him, bro? I would be disgusted too. I mean, obviously this guy had a tragic backstory, but like, come on.
Nicknamed the Red Angel, ANGRON's reputation for committing atrocities would become of great concern to the Imperium. The World Eaters in their frenzied state had hurled themselves into the most unwinnable of odds and enacted a heavy toll of losses for their lack of self-preservation. Ordering his men to bring worlds into compliance within 31 Nucerian standard hours, upon failure, the Red Angel would execute 1/10 of his men in order to root out the weakness within the Legion. Learning of the Butcher's Nails implantation within the Legion, the Emperor of Mankind would dispatch the Primarch of the 6th Legion, Russ, to order ANGRON to end his heretical surgeries. Known by Imperial records as the Knight of the Wolf, the Emperor's executioner, with his legion of Space Wolves, would confront the World Eaters
I already did Russ lore.
after the massacre of the planet of Genna. Refusing the orders of the Wolf King, ANGRON and Russ would battle. The Fenrisian Chainsword, Krakenmaw, would clash against ANGRON's Chainaxe, Widowmaker. Each legion would claim that the other fired the first shot that would begin the melee,
Yeah,
but all that bears remembering is that there would be no clear victor of the skirmish. Widowmaker would be destroyed at the hands of the Wolf King, yet ANGRON would assert his victory in combat against the restrained might of Russ. Yet ANGRON would assert his victory in combat against the restrained might of the Wolf King. Withdrawing from battle, despite their censure and warning of the Imperium, the World Eaters would continue their Butcher's Nails implantation.
Oh my
Claiming
god.
the skulls of their foes from battle, the World Eaters would not relent in their ever-worsening onslaught across the galaxy.
These guys
The
were
Imperium
monsters.
would ignore the barbarity of the 12th Legion's actions
They're like, alright, whatever, at least they're killing aliens, we don't really care.
should they continue to enforce the will of the Emperor. Yet such oversight would prove to be devastating to the future of the Imperium, with the dawn of the civil war for humanity's soul, the Horus Heresy. Corrupted.
Well, no one's surprised that ANGRON falls to chaos, right? This was probably the least surprising twist of all time.
By the thrall of the ruinous powers, the War Master and Primarch
Alright,
of
I'm
the 16th
guessing that Korn takes this guy.
Legion, Horus Lupercal, would begin his quest to end the reign of the Emperor. Before his duplicity would be known, the Master of Mankind would send the War Master to confront ANGRON for his actions during the Great Crusade.
Oh no, he thought he could trust Horus. He ended up sending him to the biggest psychopath of the Imperium.
Offering the Lord of Red Sands a chance at vengeance against his most hated father, it would not take much of Horus's lauded charisma to convince ANGRON to join the rebellion of the traitor Primarchs.
And there we go, the first person to join the Horus Heresy. That obviously, with zero surprise, it's ANGRON, a guy that already hated his dad, that's already a complete psycho. Welp.
Culling the loyalist elements within his legion, ANGRON would once more seek to purge any sign of weakness from within his ranks. Among the first members of the Pact of Betrayal, the World Eaters would stand at the forefront of the war for humanity. Joining the second wave of traitors during the Dropsite Massacre of Eastervan V, ANGRON would relish the chance to slay the loyalists to the throne. Proving to be
Dude, all the other ones are like having a really hard time, like fighting their brothers, and this dude's like, hell yeah, dude.
instrumental in the vanguard of the traitor war effort, ANGRON's rampages across the stars would seemingly be destined to succeed. As the Word-Bearers and World Eaters joined forces to engage the Ultramarines within their home system of Ultramar, their so-called Shadow Crusade would slow the advance of the Imperium's most numerically superior and lauded legion. Yet with every battle fueled by the sting of the Butcher's Nails, ANGRON's terminal affliction would worsen. Attempting to heal his brother, the Primarch of the Word-Bearers, Lorgar Aurelian, would beseech the Red Angel to return to his homeworld of Nuceria. Due to its close proximity within the Ultima Segmentum,
Alright.
the Urizen would hope to confront the High Riders of Nuceria, and with ANGRON by his side, find a means to remove the Butcher's nails from his afflicted brother.
That'd be nice.
At last given an opportunity to bring his enslavers to justice, ANGRON
Wait, do they actually remove the nails at the end?
and his World Eaters would venture to Nuceria. Upon the arrival,
ANGRON killed his own sons that were loyal to the Emperor, but he respected them for standing up to him as he killed them. What is wrong with this guy? What is wrong with this guy?
of the 12th and 17th legions to the planet of Nuceria, ANGRON would descend once more to the Deshalica Ridge of the mountains. Paying his respects to his fallen brothers in arms, ANGRON would collect the skulls of his former brethren and adorn them across his armor. Confronting the High Riders of Deshaya, ANGRON would be enraged at their disrespect of the retelling of the deaths of his noble gladiators. The populace believed
Bro showed up. Bro showed back up on this planet after he became a Chaos Primarch. Alright? He shows back up. And he's like, I really don't like the way you're telling the history of my people. And now you're all going to die.
ANGRON to have fled the battle and left his men to die in disgrace. Incensed by the lies of the High Riders, ANGRON would order his men to execute
Dude.
every living soul within the
What is this image? Is this ANGRON? Bro became fat.
city, and once finished, commit genocide across the planet. Yet the Lord of Red Sand's plot to annihilate his people would be halted by the Ultramarines commanded by their Primarch, Rabute Guilliman. The Retribution fleet of Ultramar would battle the combined might of the World Eaters and Wordbearers,
Alright, I didn't do Guilliman lore yet. I'm excited.
both in orbit and on the planet's surface. The Lord of Ultramar would battle Lorgar Aurelian in single combat, and
Single combat between Guilliman and Lorgar and what's his face? ANGRON.
after a bitter clash, come close to ending the Urizen's life. However, ANGRON would not allow Guilliman to end the life of the bearer of the word.
Right, no, of Lorgar. Of Lorgar, actually.
Unleashing his fury against the Lord of Ultramar, ANGRON would, despite his might, receive a glancing blow from Guilliman's power fist.
Brah.
A skull of ANGRON's once dead gladiators would fall from his armor, and Guilliman would unwittingly crush it beneath his mighty ceramite boot,
Uh-oh.
surrendering fully to his anguish.
Just he was carrying around the skulls of his homies, which is pretty, like, fucked up if you think about it. But but he was carrying around the skulls of his homies. Guilliman crushed one, and dude went into Hulk mode.
ANGRON would once more launch himself into the fray. Feeling the malevolent power of the warp in the wake of ANGRON's boundless grief,
There it is.
emanating from beyond the veil of the mortal realm,
There he is, there's Korn.
chanting heretical litanies and imbuing ANGRON with the fury of the blood god, Lorgar would enact the ascension of the Lord of Red Sands into a demon prince of Khorne.
And that's how it happened. So he became a demon prince of Khorne in the middle of single combat against Guilliman. Yikes, dude.
His torment, rage and despair coalescing into the form of a demonic being of unimaginable wrath, the Red Angel would achieve apotheosis. Withdrawing from the battle, the Ultramarines and their Primarch would retreat in horror.
Bro, and Guilliman retreated after that. That's horrifying.
At the sight of the being birthed on the planet of Nuceria. Lorgar had saved his brother from the clutches of death, yet in doing so, damned countless future souls to suffer at the hands of the reborn Red Angel. Ordering Khan to butcher the slaves within the hold of the world.
Apparently ANGRON didn't want this and he was pissed at Lorgar. Alright, sure, whatever you say, but now he's a giant red fuck.
Leader's flagship, Conqueror. The Demon Prince of Khorne would demand a throne of skulls to be built in his honor. Rampaging throughout the galaxy in his now ascended form,
Dude, look at
ANGRON's
this
hunger
guy.
for blood would not be sated by the lesser mortals and fiefdoms of the stars. Only the blood of humanity's most cherished bastion and its ruler would be fitting for such a horrific being. Brought to assemble with the trait of Primarchs at the world of Ulanor by the Primarch of the Iron Warriors, Perturabo, the World Eaters would once more lead the charge to Holy Terra.
Alright.
Creating a gigantic warp rift above the moon of Luna, ANGRON and his World Eaters would be the initial hammer blow of the traitor advance. Perched atop the Conqueror, ANGRON would observe the bloodletting of his legion with
This guy
grim
sucks.
satisfaction.
Yeah, this guy's horrible. This guy's horrible. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, man. Like, I'll be real. I still think I hate the other guy more. The gay one. The gay Slanesh one. The Phoenician purple guy. I think he's still my least favorite. But ANGRON is just, like, he's so, like, his backstory is so tragic, you almost can't even fully blame him, sort of.
Enslaved to the whims of the blood god, Khorne, ANGRON would assault the Imperial Palace during the Siege of Terra as a terrible angel of vengeance,
Yeah, that would be bad.
slaying friend and foe alike.
Did this guy die? Right, we'll get there.
ANGRON's massacre of any who stood in his path would be terrible and uncompromising in its savagery.
Terrible, get it?
Destroying the defenses of the Lionsgate spaceport and Eternity Wall, Even the bravest of
This, like, the art is so good. Like, this is before AI slopped on everything. Like, look at this. ANGRON breaking the gate with an endless battle on the ground.
souls would fall to the fell black blade and its malevolent wielder, before its edge would crash through the great gate of the Imperial Palace. Yet despite the efforts of the World Eaters, would need to hasten their assault. Wary of the ever closer arrival of the Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and Ultramarines to Holy Terra, the War Master would confront the Emperor in single combat. The Emperor would defeat Horus Lupercal and destroy his very being from existence.
That's right.
The armies of Chaos would fragment and retreat from the siege of...
That's so weird. I didn't realize that, Horus would die before ANGRON ends up really beefing
Terra, to which ANGRON, though the last to withdraw, would be no exception. Seeking refuge within the Eye of Terror.
No, he's still around! He's still wandering around! No!
World Eaters would over the millennia abandon their Primarch and fragment into several warbands. His last great revenge against the Master of Mankind thwarted, ANGRON skulks the Immaterium and bides his time for his seemingly random conquests of distant worlds. Prosecuting wars in the name of his patron god, ANGRON would be banished from the material realm during the Dominion of Fire campaign and First War for Armageddon. Yet with the return of the long-dormant Primarch of the Ultramarines, Rabute Guilliman, rumors stir that the Red Angel shall once again return to real space during the era Indomitus.
Alright, so this dude basically was gone for a while, it seems. Sanguinius ripped the nails out of his brain at the gates of eternity. That's crazy. Wait, so he fought Sanguinius and it wasn't included in this video? Dude fought Sanguinius and it wasn't included in this video? And well, we know Sanguinius obviously survives, because Sanguinius gets killed by Horus, at the end, as we've seen in the Sanguinius lore dive, but that's crazy. So this dude's just still around, and he's just wandering around in the Imperium forever, to just kind of show up from time to time to wreak havoc, and now we just have to wait.
Further transformed into a being of unrelenting fury, whose death grants only a momentary reprieve before his inevitable return, the Lord of Red Sands shall not cease his campaign of bloodshed and butchery. For in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, and the Red Angel shall delight in every death made in the name of conflict.
Wow, bro. Yeah, no, Sanguinius killed him, apparently, they're saying. They removed the nails from him, and it killed him. But since he's a demon, it just banished him to the warp. So he can keep getting respawned by Khorne, the blood god. And he just keeps bringing him back again and again and again for endless... dude, this is a nightmare villain. This is an actual nightmare character. I'm not gonna lie, this is a nightmare character. Sanguinius is the GOAT. That's obviously important. Sanguinius is awesome. We love him. We stan him. He's the GOAT. He's my favorite Primarch so far, and it's not even close. Of the ones that we did lore dives of so far, Sanguinius is my favorite. But this dude's terrifying.
Across the stars.
What brought you so low, brother? Did the machine in your skull finally refashion your loyalty into madness? They let me dream. They give me peace. What would you know of struggle, perfect son? When have you fought against the mutilations of your mind? When have you had to do anything more than tally compliances and polish your armor? Childish.
Guilliman sighed, gesturing to the burning, dying city.
Does it really come down to this? So pitiably childish.
Damn.
Childish? The people of your world named you Great One. The people of mine called me Slave.
True.
ANGRON stepped back. Changed.
Like, dude, you got to get out of that victim mentality. Like, yeah, obviously that sucked. I'm not trying to knock it, bro. Okay, it obviously sucked, dude. But, like, you got to get out of that victim headset, or you're just going to suffer for eternity. Spoilers, he does.
Was revving harder.
Which one of us landed on a paradise of civilization to be raised by a foster father, Rabute? Which one of us was given armies to lead after training in the halls of the Macregian High Riders? Which one of us inherited a strong, cultured kingdom?
ANGRON splayed blood as he frothed the words.
And which of us had to rise up against a kingdom with nothing but a horde of starving slaves? Which one of us was a child enslaved in a world of monsters, with his brain cut open by carving knives?
The two Primarchs met again. Guilliman's powered gauntlets should have easily deflected ANGRON's chainswords, but the World Eater's strength drove his brother back, step by step.
Damn.
Chain teeth sprayed from the weapons, as eagerly as the saliva from ANGRON's lipless slit of a mouth.
Listen to your blue-clad witches yelling of courage and honor. Courage and honor. Do you even know the meaning of those words? Courage is fighting the kingdom that enslaves you, no matter that their armies overshadow yours by 10,000 to 1. You know nothing of courage. Honor is restraining a tyrant when all others suckle and grow fat on the hypocrisy he feeds them. You know nothing. of honor.
Damn, that is a crazy quote. And good voice acting, too. Wow. All right, well, that was the ANGRON lore dive. Link in the description, obviously. Yeah, no, he's cool. I think that the lore for ANGRON is probably one of my favorite of the Primarchs, but I hate him. All right, I want to make this clear. I hate this guy. This guy sucks. However, simultaneously, the lore is one of the best. Wow, what a tragic character. What an unbelievably tragic character. Driven to utter madness and beyond for infinite eternal torture at the hands of a demon god that will keep reviving him when he will never find peace. What a horrifying nightmare. Sanguinius at the gate was his apex. He got his neck broken over Sanguinius' knee, Bane style, and ANGRON got his nails ripped out. What a nightmare. And then, of course, Khorne brings him back. Well, anyway, that was the ANGRON lore dive. Let me know for future videos. All right. Let me just check real quick what the next Primarch lore dive is. Next Primarch lore dive will be Roboute Guilliman, baby. Oh, my God. All right, so we'll see what that's all about. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate y'all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Like, subscribe, and this video was streamed live on kick.com/Nuxanor. See you there. Stay weird, man.